Hi everyone. Once again, please excuse my voice. I'm still getting over COVID. I just want to talk about Bryan Kohberger. In this case, people try to analyze him, and it's just been very irritating listening to some of the coverage about Bryan, because you hear a lot of professionals, so-called professionals, that have been in the field for years and years and years. And the thing I don't like about it is they only talk about their textbook training. And they're in a time that's not anything like our current time. Things have changed. You can't go by textbook training. You've got to go by experience. Nothing is ever a textbook. Just like in the medical field, I would be dead by now if I didn't know stuff, because doctors going by, quote, textbook training. There's always anomalies. Just like when profilers go by just certain profiles, they never go out the box. Not every stereotypical profile is going to fit a person. Not every shooter is going to be a white male. And I know most of them are, don't get me wrong, but people are so set on certain profiles that they don't try to look at anything else. And you can't do that, especially nowadays. What you learned 40 years ago is not going to apply now. People are different. Things are changing. The way people do things are different. With our technology, you can't go by profiles you used 20 years ago. Things have to be updated. And I get so sick of people talking about Bryan with profiles they learned 30, 40 years ago. It just does not apply. And you can't go by just textbook stuff. And all these people keep saying incel, incel. You don't know what the hell an incel is. You're not an incel. Bryan was not an incel. He went on dates. He had a girlfriend in the past. That's not incel. So stop saying incel, idiots. He's not an incel. God, it's just so much stuff that makes me so angry when I listen to people. They're such idiots. I've been in the psych field, I'm not going to say how, for many years. So I just want to preface that. I think he's fascinating. He's different, especially with his studies. I wish I had the, credentials and the connections to interview him, because I think learning the true nature of him would be very fascinating. I am not trying to glamorize him, so let me get that straight. If he is guilty, then he needs to pay the price. If he's not, then he needs to be exonerated. I just think his case is fascinating. He has that book smarts. And if he did do this, then he doesn't have the street smarts. But it just would shock me, with his level of intelligence and his knowledge of the justice system, that he would drop the ball so bad. As I said in my other video, people need to stop jumping to conclusions. We only have about 5% of the facts, and we may never get all the facts, because I believe a lot of people are not telling you the truth in this case, because the stories are so far-fetched. But I found it interesting when he was talking about his psych issues when he was young. If you had psych experience, you would know that a lot of people with psych issues do not have insight whatsoever. That's why so many end up hospitalized. But even as a teen, he had just incredible insight into his psych issues. I mean, he described it better than I would hear doctors describe stuff. So he's very intelligent. He's very insightful into his illness. He talked about his visual snow. He talked about how he felt detached, and, he cared about his family, but they were just, like, he didn't have, real feelings for them. He treated his father bad, but his father was a good man. So I'd really would love to hear, how he changed from a teenager to an adult, because psych issues start in the teen years, or they could start in the 20s. A lot of people develop it in their late teens. I mean, of course, children can have psych issues, but, we usually see it late teens, 20s, start developing. So I would love to know, how his issues changed over the years. Did it get better? Did it get worse? I would like to know if, during his criminal studies, if, people like BTK and others, kind of inspired him to either get into, the criminal justice field, or if they inspired him to commit a crime, if he is guilty. If he just finally lost control of his emotions, if he was just fed up and couldn't, take his compulsions any longer and just had to act on them. If he has OCD, they said. When you have OCD, you have compulsions. If you're bipolar, you have compulsions that a lot of times you can't control, even though you know it's wrong and you shouldn't do it. People have compulsions, and it's no excuse, but I'm just saying, people have compulsions that they cannot control. And I don't care how much of a doctor you are or whatever. If you haven't experienced it, you cannot speak on it, and you cannot understand it, because compulsions are very strong, and it's something you can't control. And like I said, it's no excuse whatsoever. But I would like to know if he was dealing with compulsions that he could no longer control, if he did it. And I just think his case is fascinating, especially since, he's very intelligent. He was trying to get his doctorate in the criminal justice field. I would like to know if his knowledge of that triggered him to think he could get away with something, if he, thought he was smarter than the police, that he would get away with it if he did it. I would just love to know just what he was feeling, his thoughts in general. If he's guilty, what motivated him? Was it, just being fascinated by criminal justice and seeing if he could get away with it? If he was inspired by other killers? If he was having compulsions and just could not control them anymore? What was the final straw? Was he slighted and just exploded? Was he obsessed with someone in that house and, acted on it? Was it drug related? Just whatever. I wish we could really find the truth of it from his perspective, and not from what we're hearing from the police and profilers that don't know crap. I'm talking about the profilers. Hopefully the police aren't covering up anything. But we just really need to learn from the horse's mouth. Too many people are jumping to conclusions when you don't know a thing. Stop using these outdated profiles. Stop trying to play doctor when you don't know what's in his mind. Even the top doctors can't truly understand a psych issue if they do not have that psych issue. You cannot understand compulsion if you do not have that issue. So I really hope that we will be able to hear Bryan's true side of everything. If he's guilty, he's not going to admit it. And, we'll probably never know. But I just think it would be very interesting to truly get into his mind and be able to interview him and truly know what's going on. I know that's never going to happen from anyone, because, he's facing the death penalty, so he would never admit that he did it if he was guilty. And, he wouldn't discuss all of the things that I mentioned. But it just would be really wonderful to know out of curiosity, because I think his case is very fascinating. As I said, I'm not trying to glamorize it. I am not trying to excuse it, dismiss it, anything, because it's an absolutely horrible tragedy. But it's just fascinating to understand a person that could do something like that, to understand their mental illness. It's very fascinating. So please hit that like button and that subscribe button. Watch my other videos, and I hope you have a great day.